I'm not taking care of your kid, my mom snapped. That's your problem now. So I made it hers. I canceled every payment I'd been sending. On Christmas morning, my father appeared at my door. Let's not forget to hit that subscribe button, as it's the best way to support this channel. And let's get back to the story. I'm 31, and the moment I stepped into that living room, I could feel something was off. My mom, Linda, sat there with Mark's kids, my brother's 3, looking healthier than she had in ages. This from a woman who just last week said she was far too ill to keep an eye on my daughter, Ellie, for even one evening. And yet here she was, laughing, bouncing my nephew on her knee like she had all the energy in the world. Everything stopped when they noticed me. Her face went pale, just for a second. Then she recovered quickly, flashing that same fake smile I knew too well. Travis, what a surprise. We weren't expecting visitors, she said brightly, her tone too cheerful. I stood there speechless, holding the envelope of cash I'd brought. The usual utility money I handed over like clockwork. My eyes flicked from Linda to Mark's kids to my dad, Rick, who just slouched deeper into his recliner, refusing to meet my eyes. You said you couldn't take care of Ellie because you weren't feeling well, I said through clenched teeth. The room fell completely silent. Linda hesitated, but Mark, always ready with a cover story, jumped in. Mom just has too much going on, Trav. She's doing what she can. Don't make her stress out more. The pressure in my chest was building. She's literally babysitting right now, I said flatly. My mom rubbed her forehead like I was giving her a headache. It's not the same. Mark needs me, she said, playing the martyr. That was it. 32 years of being treated like the backup kid, the side character, snapped into place all at once. So Mark, who's never paid for anything in his life, who still lets you fold his laundry, deserves your help more than I do. Nobody said a word. Rick shifted like the cushion got uncomfortable. Mark gave me an annoyed look. Linda just shook her head. You're twisting things, she muttered. But I wasn't. And we all knew it. I could feel my jaw locking as everything came into focus. She had never been sick, not really. She just didn't want to lose the income one was providing. She manipulated me, lied to my face, took my money, week after week, and couldn't be bothered to lift a finger for my daughter. And Mark? He wasn't on it. He'd always been. I'd had enough. Years of being the wallet while getting treated like an outsider had finally broken something inside me. I get it now, I said, voice cold. I've never actually mattered to this family, have I? I'm just the backup plan. The ATM. Linda gasped, about to give some rehearsed speech, but I raised a hand. Don't. Just don't. I was done playing the role of the obedient son. I told them it wasn't fair that I'd been paying their rent, covering their groceries, doing everything I could, only to be treated like a stranger when I asked for one favor. Linda tried to defend herself. Mark smirked and said I was always too sensitive, that mom had to walk on eggshells around me. I turned to him, face hard as granite. You're pathetic. You've been coddled your whole life, and you love it. You let her baby you because it's easier than growing up. They deserved each other. I turned and walked out. Linda called my name. Mark yelled something sarcastic. Rick stayed silent, as usual. I didn't look back. Hands trembling on the steering wheel, I drove home in silence. Streetlights blurred past me, and by the time I pulled into our driveway, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Natalie was in the kitchen, Ellie already tucked into bed upstairs. She took one look at me and asked what happened. I told her everything. The babysitting, the lies, the favoritism we had suspected for years finally laid bare. She wasn't shocked. Maybe she had always known. What now, she asked. Now? I'm done, I said. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The next morning, I pulled out my laptop and shut everything down. The rent transfer, the utility payments, the auto pay for groceries, the car insurance, all of it, gone. Then I sent one final message. You're on your own now. Good luck. Blocked their numbers and moved on. What came next was a storm of chaos. Calls started flooding in, dozens of them. I blocked them all. Then came the emails, full of guilt and desperation. When I ignored those, they started calling Natalie. She let them ring out with a smug smile. Then Linda took it public. A tearful Facebook post about her cruel son abandoning his dying mother. I didn't respond directly. I just posted the facts. No drama, no yelling, just truth. I had supported them financially for years. My mother lied about being ill to get out of watching my daughter. She had energy for Mark's kids, but none for mine. I was done. The response was immediate and brutal. Cousins, old friends, even some of their neighbors chimed in. People had seen Linda doing yard work and out at the store on days she claimed to be bedridden. Mark got the worst of it. His image as the struggling single dad fell apart. Questions started about his vacations, his habits, his choices. And then came the final move. 3 days later, a knock at the door. Through the peephole, I saw them. Linda and Rick. both looking like they'd aged 10 years in 3 days. Her eyes were puffy, his posture defeated. I hesitated, hand on the knob. Part of me wanted to walk away, but another part needed to hear what they had to say. I opened the door and stood in the doorway, blocking their path. Linda started talking immediately, voice shaky, tears starting again. Please, Travis, can we just talk? We're your parents. I didn't move. Talk then. Rick cleared his throat. Your mom is broken up over this. We both are. We never meant to hurt you. You didn't mean for me to find out. I corrected. Linda reached out to touch my arm. I took a step back. Cutting us off? It's too much, she said, her voice cracking. We can't cover rent. The electric company's threatening to shut off our power. You really want your parents living in the dark? The guilt trip was so predictable I nearly laughed. You have options, I replied calmly. Dad can work. You can get a smaller place. Mark can contribute for once. Contributing, or you can keep playing these games and see where that gets you. My mother's expression hardened. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? Throwing us out on the street. What exactly have you done for me, Mom? I asked, keeping my tone calm. Name one thing in the last 10 years that wasn't about what I could do for you. Silence. My father glanced away. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it again. That's what I thought, I said, stepping back. You made your choice. Now live with it. And I shut the door. For the first time in my life, I felt truly free. No more guilt. No more games. No more chasing love that had never really been there. And damn, it felt good. The next few weeks were calmer than I expected. Natalie and I took Ellie to the coast for a long weekend. We started house hunting in a better school district, something we had always talked about but never seriously pursued. I even got promoted at work. Turns out, when you're not constantly caught up in someone else's emergency, you can actually focus. But of course, peace never lasts. Word got back to me through coworkers, family friends, old classmates. My parents were spreading rumors. That I was having a breakdown. That I was unstable. That I had become obsessed with money. Lisa, of course, was parroting the same story to anyone who would listen. One evening, my Aunt Denise called. No small talk. Just, they're saying you lost it. Your mom's telling everyone you're having a midlife crisis. I leaned back in my office chair and sighed. Are you surprised? Not even a little, she admitted. Denise always saw through my mom. It's why they rarely spoke. How bad is it? I asked. Bad, she said. They might be getting evicted next month. Rick tried getting his job back at the hardware store. No dice. Lisa's asking around for loans. But people are starting to notice things. Something stirred in me. Not quite guilt, but close. It's not my problem anymore, I said, though even I could hear the weakness in my voice. Denise agreed. Said I'd done more than enough. She just wanted me to be aware of what was going on. After we hung up, I stared out the window at the fading daylight. Was I cruel? Was I a bad son? The doubts crept in. Natalie found me still sitting there an hour later. She perched on the edge of my desk, asked if I was okay. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me feels free, but another part, guilty. She took my hand and looked me straight in the eye. You supported them for years. You gave them chances they didn't deserve. All they had to do was be honest. Treat you like they treat Lisa. They couldn't even do that. I nodded slowly. She was right. I knew she was right. Still, I voiced what had been on my mind for days. What happens when they actually can't take care of themselves anymore? Then we decide what to do. When we get there, she said. She reminded me that helping your parents doesn't mean being their doormat. There's a difference between love and manipulation. I smiled, pulling her into my lap. When did you get so wise? Always been. You're just finally listening, she smirked. 2 months passed. Ellie learned to count to 20. We made an offer on a little house near a good elementary school. Life started to look like a future again. And then, the Christmas card arrived. It came on a Tuesday. No return address. But I knew the handwriting the moment I saw it. Inside, a generic card, a staged photo of my parents and Lisa's kids, everyone beaming like nothing had ever happened. On the back, 3 words in my mother's looping script. We miss you. No apology. No recognition. Just that. As if those words could magically erase everything. I tossed it in the trash. That evening, Natalie and I were decorating the tree. The doorbell rang. I froze, tinsel in hand. Natalie offered to answer it, squeezing my shoulder. She came back a moment later, face unreadable. It's your dad. Alone. Rick stood in the entryway, hands in his coat pockets. Looking older, smaller. His hair was completely gray now. We exchanged short greetings. I asked why he was here. He looked at Natalie, then back to me. Can we talk? Just a few minutes. I glanced at Natalie. She gave me the your call look. I nodded. She took Ellie upstairs. We sat in the living room, on opposite ends of the couch. The Christmas lights blinked quietly between us. He started slowly. Your mom doesn't know I'm here. She'd lose it if she found out. That got my attention. So why are you here? He took a breath. Because I owe you a real apology. I didn't answer. Let him talk. He said he knew he failed me. Not just now, but always. He stood by while my mom chose Lisa over and over. Watched her use me, guilt-trip me. And he never stopped it. Why didn't you? I asked. He looked at his hands. Because I was a coward. Easier to keep the peace than challenge her. I let it go. I let it all happen. He didn't ask for forgiveness. Just wanted me to know I had every right to walk away. Said he was proud of me for doing what he never could. Something shifted inside me. So what now? I asked. We're moving in with Lisa, he said, not hiding his grimace. Your mother's idea. Lisa's already regretting it. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Shocking. He laughed too. Tired. Sad. But real. He said he should go. Mom would be wondering where he was. I walked him to the door. Merry Christmas, son, he said, pausing on the threshold. Ellie's beautiful. You're a better father than I ever was. Then he left, footsteps crunching through the snow. I closed the door behind him and leaned against it. For the first time in my life, my father had told me the truth. And I had no idea what to do with that. Erase the past? Maybe not. But something changed. Erin found me still standing there minutes later. She asked if I was okay. Yeah, I said, surprising myself by meaning it. I think I am. That night, as we finished decorating the tree, I thought about family, not the one I was born into, but the one I chose. Erin, who loved me without conditions. Mia, who looked at me like I hung the moon. Even our friends and co-workers who had stood by us. They were my family now. Not perfect, but real. We moved into a new house, a modest 4-bedroom with a backyard big enough for a swing set. Mia turned 3. We threw her a dinosaur-themed party, and the green frosting stuck to the ceiling for days. I heard from my dad occasionally. Just short, awkward calls. We never quite figured out how to talk. My mom still refused to apologize. She told anyone who would listen that I owed her the apology. Lisa had kicked them out after just 2 months. Apparently, she couldn't handle the constant complaining and financial strain. They were renting a small apartment now, living off fixed income. Part of me felt vindicated. They were finally facing the consequences. But another part of me felt something else, not quite guilt, more like mourning for what might have been. One sunny Saturday, while I pushed Mia on her new swing, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. It's Lisa. Can we talk? I stared at the screen. We hadn't spoken since that day at our parents' house. What did she want now? Curiosity won out. I replied, when and where? We met that Monday during lunch at a local coffee shop. She was already there when I arrived, looking different, less polished, more real. She thanked me for coming. I asked her what she wanted. Hands wrapped around her coffee cup, eyes on the table. She said it plainly. I owe you an apology. I waited. She admitted she'd been awful to me. Said she had assumed having our parents live with her would be easy, helpful even. That they'd chip in with the kids, maybe contribute to bills. But instead, Mom nitpicked her cooking, her parenting, everything. Dad barely moved from the couch. Sounds familiar, I said. She nodded, embarrassed. For the first time, she understood what I'd been through. After 2 months, she kicked them out. Said they were driving her crazy. I studied her. There was something different in her, a humility I'd never seen. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. She met my eyes and admitted I had been right. About Mom. About everything. She knew she let me shoulder all the weight, and she was sorry. It was the first real apology I'd heard from her in 32 years. I thanked her, told her one apology didn't undo everything, and she agreed. She didn't expect forgiveness. She just wanted me to know she saw it now. That she was trying to break the cycle for her own kids. You still talk to them? I asked. Sometimes, she said. But I'm setting boundaries now. No more free babysitting. No more loans. No more guilt. I nodded. I got it. How are the kids? I asked, surprising myself. She smiled. Jack had started kindergarten. Emma was into soccer. They sometimes asked about Mia. An awkward silence followed. We had 30 years of baggage between us. But I told her maybe we could start over. As adults. She nodded. Eyes glassy. I'd like that. We talked for another 20 minutes. Her job. My new house. Nothing heavy. But it was a beginning. As we walked out, she turned and thanked me again. For standing up to them. If you hadn't, I might never have seen it. I nodded. Not quite ready to say you're welcome. But hearing it mattered. Walking back to my office, I felt lighter. Not because it was fixed. It wasn't. Maybe it never would be. But I wasn't stuck anymore. I wasn't the family ATM. I wasn't the forgotten son. I wasn't the reliable guy who got no credit. I was just Travis. Husband. Father. A man finally living his life on his own terms. That night, tucking Mia into bed, she looked up at me, eyes sleepy and wide. Daddy, are you happy? I kissed her forehead, her hair smelling like strawberry shampoo. Yeah, sweetheart, I whispered. I really am. And for the first time in as long as I could remember, it was absolutely true.